Hello and welcome back. Today we will be having a little fun with the High Marshal Helbrecht.
And that's all I'll be using of the original audio. I've decided to go and redub this entire video in post. This way I find it easier to share what I was thinking, which is way more than what I said during the original recording. Alongside having better audio quality, I feel that these factors will make for a better viewing experience, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so at this point, I'm wondering just what I've got myself into, because my plan here is to convert Helbrecht into a Death Guard model. So at this point, I'm contemplating exactly what I'm going to use to turn this thing into a Death Guard. I have quite a few bits in mind that I'm going to use, and many more that I can sort through and find ones that might pique my interest. So with bits in mind and a mild overconfidence in my ability to use green stuff, I got to work. So it's time to get started. I'm looking through my bits. I decided to dump them out, get a closer look. I know that there's a couple good ones in here and a couple I'm unsure about. I know I start looking at a pipe. I thought I was going to use this one. Didn't end up using it, but it was a good idea. Looking at weapons. Anything that is inherently Death Guard or seems Death Guard. With the bits I need all set to the side, it was time to get down to some hobby ASMR, and I think we've earned it.
I'll fix that up. So I'm gonna have a few other.
ASMR complete. I decided it was time to get to work. I needed to scrape off this symbol of the Black Templars because, well, I don't want rival symbology on my dude. I get the hobby knife out and I pretty much scrape it into nothing. This part was pretty easy. Just all in all, it took a lot of doing to actually get done. There was a lot of scraping and grinding until it was nice and smooth. The next part, which was the pants, was even more difficult. It had a little built-in relic that I had to cut the entire thing out. That was not as easy as I would have hoped, but in the end, I think it turned out pretty well. You can see pieces are flying everywhere, but I dig around in my bits and I pull out this cool skull on a chain. I knew I wanted to try to fit that on there, but I wasn't sure exactly if it would fit. So I look at it, I measure it, test it out, see it hangs over, and so I decide to look at the box. Because maybe I can tell if I see how he's standing on his base, I can tell how much leeway I might have. I'm going to make a custom base for this one, but it's good to keep these spatial concepts in mind. I finish cutting out the plastic, and then I move on to the shoulder pad. This was an idea that my friend had, and he converted his to a Blood Angel shoulder pad, and so I kind of followed what he did. I took this bit that we looked at earlier, ripped the shoulder pauldron off, and managed to measure them up, line them up, measure twice, cut once, and then I did cut. Snip, snip, pull it off. It looks good, but does it fit? Like a glove. It fits perfectly. I couldn't have been happier. Apply some glue, put it in place, and we're done with that shoulder pad. Sans removing a hair that got caught in the glue because of course it did. Now that the shoulder pad was complete, I wanted to get to work on the chest, so I took a good luck charm off of Mortarian Scythe, Silence, and, just glued it in place. It's the perfect size that it fills up the entire chest and looks like it belongs. After that, it's time to glue the legs in place. I'm going to glue the legs on, and then I'm going to work on that skull and the chain part. Glue it together, and then I'm measuring it out. Cut the chain down to size, cut the back of the skull off so it'll sit flat, glue applied, and it fits like a glove. I couldn't be happier with how that one turned out. At this point, I'm just enjoying my work for a moment. I glue the leg on that I forgot to glue on earlier. That could have been bad. Glue the cape on, get that in place. I cut the little nib off the shoulder so the new shoulder pauldron will apply correctly. Glue on the cape, glue it in place, and it's good. At this point, I start snipping out the weapon that I was thinking of using. I measure it back and forth, but I soon realized that, like, no way, no how is this weapon going to work for this character, especially with the arm still on it. So I try cutting parts of the weapon off, get it all the way down just to the axe head, when at this point I get a little bit of an idea. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going with this, but I want this arm. I have some ideas. I might cut it off at the wrist later, which interferes with the bug pattern, but it's a sacrifice I have to live with. So I I dry fit it a little bit first. I scrape it down to size, put some glue on there, and managed to get it in place with relative ease. This was the first step of many that I was about to undergo to get this weapon done. But in the end, despite this arm and the weapon causing me the most time and effort in the project, I am ecstatic with how they turned out. And I think, other than one tiny little flaw, I think it turned out way better than I could have imagined. So at this point, I decide to start working on how the weapon will attach to the body, and you might notice that the weapon's a little bit big for him, as I'm contemplating using the handle to Mortarian silence. It's at this point I should mention that this character does not exist on the tabletop. This conversion is a character of my own creation who appeared in a game of Wrath and Glory. This was a solo game that I DM'd for my best friend and roommate, the same friend that I mentioned earlier, who has the Blood Angel conversion. So this character model that I'm making, Demetrius, he became a Death Guard. He didn't start in the Death Guard Legion. He was actually an Astartes that contracted Nurgle's rot and fell after learning the glories of the diseases of the Grandfather. Proving himself capable with victory after victory, the Grandfather blessed him with disease after disease, mutating and growing his body. It wasn't long before he was a hulking monstrosity of the man he used to be. Eventually, he was strong enough to uproot one of the trees from Nurgle's garden, and it was this rotten, twisted tree that he used as the handle of his great Plague Reaper axe. I hope I didn't bore you too much with that lore dump, but here, getting back to the model, I decided it was time to mix up some green stuff, which is what led to that one part that I keep mentioning that I didn't love about this project. I mixed up some green stuff, stuck it in the head. That fit kind of well. Needed to take it off and scrape some out and get it back into shape. That turned out well, but then I tried to use some green stuff on the cape because I had like half a cape that was built in the back. Oh, yeah, I also used it as some gap fill. But I had half a cape that was built in the back, and I wanted to extend it with the green stuff. Unfortunately, I overestimated my own sculpting ability, and it ended up not looking as good as I had hoped. I kind of attached it, sculpted it into a general shape, got some water so I would stop sticking to it, used a few different tools, none of which was the right tool for the job because, as I mentioned in my last video, I just moved, and I have no idea what happened to the tool, the silicone tip shaper that I would use for this. So I ended up having to kind of bootleg it. It turned out well, all things considered, but I wish I had the right tool for the job. At this point, I cut the lantern off of the chain handle of Helbrecht and stuck on those two decapitated heads from that corn bit I mentioned earlier. I grab his power pack. I glue it on. I shouldn't have done this. I pull it right off, basically. And I sculpt down the Lord of Contagion's little fiery back marker, the thing so all of his troops can identify him. I try to fit that in place, knock the backpack off, leave it off, cut it down a bit more so it fits better. do, trim, apply glue at all the contact points, and I try it a second time. This time it works quite a bit better, and I'm able to, after this sets for a little bit, glue it onto the main model. So I'd consider that one a success. Moving on. So at this point, I decide it's time to glue the hand on, glue on the wrist, attach the hand. It looks amazing. Very happy with that. It's time to continue working on his weapon. I cut out the other Plague Reaper because I have 2 Lords of Contagion sprues because I love the model for some reason. I cut the bit down. Unfortunately, I do most of this off the bottom of the screen because, you know, my 3 brain cells decided they didn't want to work at that moment. Nothing much happening at this point. Just gluing the bits together. They'll come back later, so we'll see them. Attaching some chains to the back, trying to give it a chainmail look. Maybe that'll make the cape look a little more realistic, like it's next to chainmail. I think it helped a bit. Put some glue on so I could attach the backpack. Dropped it, because Butterfingers laugh at this man. Point at him and laugh. Finally glue it in place. You know, hold it there for a couple seconds. And it's looking good. I am incredibly happy with this. You could not tell it's Helbrecht if you didn't know. Well, I mean, you probably could. But I am still head over heels with how it's turning out. Work a little bit more on the cape because I'm still not happy with it. Find a tool similar to the one I need. It's not the one, but it does the job. It's like a little wax thing. So I lost a little bit of the tip while doing this, but it's smoothed out, and so I'm happier with it now. Finally, I start working on the base, tearing bits of cork up. I want this to be a big, imposing base. Drop some cork in the water, laugh at this man. Glue my base pieces into place. I do like 2 main pieces, and then I carve out the front of it. Once I was done carving it out, I applied a few more layers on top. This cardboard is quite a bit thinner, so I was using this as the little areas where he's going to have his feet and a little river running between them. Tear some off, one side, the other side, attach them in place, glue them down, attach a little more rock up here. This is going to be the extension of the waterfall where it's coming down behind his back. I say waterfall, this is going to be a toxic green sludge because Nurgle. Finally, gluing the pieces in place. Tall river. I want it to be like flowing like a trickling, babbling brook. Because Nurgle is all about nature at the same time as being death and decay. It should be haunting yet beautiful. So I put him up there. He doesn't quite fit. His feet are at different heights. I figure a little more cardboard on the left side. Cut it into place. Measure it. It fits pretty well. Like it's even got that little curve on it. And his foot fits perfectly. He stands on it. No problem now. At this point, I'm just gluing the finishing touches on. Last little bit. And then I'm going to come in with the Mod Podge. I've never used Mod Podge before. So here's a clip of me, putting a bunch of Mod Podge on, wondering how much is too much. I don't look it up. That's not a good idea. You should probably look it up. I figure out however much Mod Podge is too much is how much I used. It didn't end up drying quite right. I was going to do a time-lapse video of the Mod Podge drying, but then I realized I only have one camera and it was taking too long. So I grabbed the base and moved it to the bathroom where I put a hairdryer on it. I came back to work a little bit more on the model. I measured out the weapon, looked at it, figured out how I wanted the head to sit on there, and began carving a little nook out for it to sit in. I had to carve back and forth until it was a sizable little just nook carved out. And then once I was happy with how deep it was, I brought over the axe head, and it should be in just a second. You can see the axe head. I glue it in place, and the rest is history. I think it turned out super well. That's exactly what I want to see from like a headsman of Nurgle. just this big double-headed woodland axe. This next bit is from the next day. I cut a firstborn Marine in half. You know, I wanted him to be dead under the waterfall. I was going to replace his head with a skull, but I couldn't find my skull spruce, unfortunately. So I cut him down to size, get some green stuff, mix the green stuff up, as you do, put it under his base, or well, put it between his body and the base to get him stuck on so I wouldn't have him falling off, because he wouldn't glue right if I just left him. Then I put a little bit of green stuff at the arm stump, and I do it off camera because, once again, my brain cells weren't working. But then I sculpt the green stuff to look like torn flesh and take a little bit of the sprue that I cut off and stick that in the torn flesh like the bone sticking out. I think it turns out quite well, and I am happy with it, and I hope you're happy with it too. I'll show you what everything looks like culminated at the end. Some of the photos are from the previous day, so the Space Marine isn't there. It'll still give you the general idea. So yeah, of what to a lot of work for a little model. And but for next week's video, I'm going to paint this with how it turned out. Now just take a moment to let the B-roll play, and we can just enjoy this model. So I've got a little more to discuss after this. So if you'd stick around, I'd be super grateful. If you were here just for the model, that's fine too. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe. Leave a comment if you didn't like, because disliking doesn't do anything anymore. And let me know what you guys want to see. I'll put the link to the channel survey in the description and the comments again. Follow that if you want to have some influence on the channel. Send it to your friends. Stack the influence. Stack the deck. Win the vote. Do what you want. So yeah, that was the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. The goal was to get this video out by 7 a.m. on Sunday. And considering it's 4 a.m., I've got 3 hours left to upload, and the video will be ready. I've had quite a few complications due to the fact that I'm recording on my phone. I can't find my camera anywhere. I'm having to dub over the audio. That's taken a little bit longer. But I hope you enjoyed everything that this video had to offer. If you want to help support the channel, I'm going to link my Patreon in the description. I made this Patreon quite a while ago when I was first making my channel, but I felt that I never had the quality of content that deserved a Patreon, so I just kind of let it collect dust, and now I'm turning over a new leaf. So I want this content to be content that's worth paying for. That being said, this is still free content. I hope it gets to as many people as possible, and I hope you love it and enjoy it. I hope you enjoy seeing me create this model as much as I enjoyed making it, and I hope you'll join us next week when I paint it up. After that, I might be painting up his rival, who's going to be a blood angel, so that's going to be nice. A lot of time on one model for the next two videos, and then I've got a couple models that I've already made that I want to paint up. Keep leaving suggestions on the survey. I will listen to you guys. I want to know what you guys want to watch. Other than that, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. Leave a comment. Ask me anything. I'll answer your questions in the next video. Or I just might respond. I read every comment, but I am cripplingly shy, so very rarely do I respond to the comments. But yeah, other than that, it's almost 5 on a Sunday, and I hope you are doing well. Enjoy the day, and I'll see you next time.